you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Well, there you go, ladies. Know when the shrill lady sings those notes that bring you the ear brain bleed that we talk about at the beginning of the show, that's when you know the show started. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss for your family, show, friends, and relatives of the show. Facebook.com/Chris Voss. YouTube.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss on the TikTok. And Jesus, we're everywhere. I mean, it's the Chris Voss Show. What do you want from us after 16 years? Today, we had an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his hot new book. It's just coming off the presses, and you can enjoy it as well. Today, we're going to be talking with Scott Harris. He wrote the book called Pursuit of Home, a real estate guide to achieving the American dream, coming out October 14th, 2025. So now you can pick up the book wherever fine books are sold. It's also a USA Today bestseller. That's the reason to buy the book alone right there. So there you go. We're going to end it with him. We're going to find out more about him and how you can pursue your own home. If you already have one, you can get a second one. I think that's the deal. I think that's how it works. Scott Harris is a successful real estate agent working in residential and an entrepreneur who has marketed and sold nearly $2 billion worth of New York City properties. Is that like one building? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just doing jokes here. $2 billion of New York properties in career spanning more than 2 decades. He has been recognized as a top 25 agent in New York City and among the top 200 in the nation by sales volume. By the Wall Street Journal Real Trends Verified Top 1,000 list. He's regularly among the 0.02% of realtors nationwide, with a client roster that includes the leading lights of every industry. He's got good friends. And now he's a nationally best-selling author. Welcome to the show. How are you, Scott?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having me, man.
There you go. $2 billion of New York City. I was kind of doing a joke there about how expensive New York real estate is.
Yeah, no, it's definitely expensive. You can sell one building these days.
Yeah.
Could definitely cover that.
That might just be an apartment now. One of those 6x6ers there in New York City. So Scott, give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
People can find information about the book at pursueyourhome.com. They can also learn everything they want about New York City real estate by finding me at my firm's website, which is magneticre.com. And in terms of socials, they want to follow me on LinkedIn. I talk all about New York City real estate. They can follow me at Harris Residential. They can find me on Instagram, running and posting videos of me running and talking all about New York City real estate as well. It's Scotty Harris, Scottie Harris. That's fun. I have a lot of fun there. And it goes on and on.
There you go. So give us a overview of what's inside your book.
All right, Chris. After 20 years and, as you mentioned, $2 billion of sales and probably $4 billion or $6 billion of deals that I lost, I had a lot of wisdom that I wanted to share about New York City real estate. Wasn't exactly sure how to do it. And then I had this epiphany about really what the home buying experience is. You know, I took all these stories that I've collected over 2 decades, and what I would say for anybody who's in real estate, anyone who's bought a home, they realize that it's not just a transaction. It's an emotional journey. It's really a transition that people go through. And I wanted to bring that to light because right now, over 50% of people who buy homes have reported a lot of buyer's remorse. Something is broken with the system. It's because reality TV doesn't reflect what's going on when you go to buy a home. Social media isn't reflecting what's going on when you buy a home. What's actually happening is this emotional journey. There's this emotional world that is underneath the transaction. And I wrote a book to guide people through the emotional journey, you know, all the different points that people are actually going to go through and how to do it and have a better outcome, find that dream home they're looking for, have more fun in the process, and really use that home to be a launch pad for the life that they want to create.
There you go. I mean, so do you find that people are maybe making the reason they're dissatisfied maybe with their choices is maybe they're pulling the trigger maybe too soon, or they don't understand, why they're making these emotional decisions, and then if they get a home, they don't. There's buyer's remorse. Maybe is that kind of the playthrough?
People can have buyer's remorse for a number of reasons. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, the top line could be that they just overpaid.
Mm.
They just paid too much and they feel like they didn't get the value they expected.
Ah.
And they certainly, that's a tough pill to swallow. Or maybe the market dropped a little bit after they bought, some very practical reasons. But I think also you touched on it. There's a lack of communication that happens not only between buyers and their real estate agent, which causes tons of friction and ultimately may lead to a worse outcome. But what about the communication within a relationship?
Mm.
Over 70% of people are buying with a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not on the same page, one of them could be very unhappy with the outcome. So, I mean, there are so many different reasons why people end up not being happy with their home. I want to solve as many of those as I can with the book.
There you go. Oh, I don't know. I was a real estate agent for a while. It seemed like the way to always be happy with the home is just make sure the wife is happy. She likes the kitchen and the bathrooms, and if she's happy, everything's going to be fine. Is that not how it works out?
I interviewed I interviewed an NFL player
Mm-hmm.
who told me that he got divorced, and the reason he got divorced was because he actually didn't want to live in a townhouse. He wanted to live in a standalone home, and it caused so much unhappiness that he felt like it just built up this resentment and ultimately led to a divorce. So
Wow.
I hear you. Happy wife, happy life. I love my wife and she's incredible.
Yeah.
But when it comes to buying a home, the communication has to be a little more two-way.
Yeah. I mean, I could see from an investment point of view that might make sense to get like a single family home. And I suppose it depends on where you're at. I mean, clearly in New York, you're probably going to have townhomes and townhouses and the walk-ups, I think they call them. Because that's kind of how that old real estate is there. I think it's a little hard to get a single family residence standalone in New York City, isn't it? I mean, in the
There are
city.
very few freestanding homes. There's one
Yeah.
very close to where I live. All of the Gilded Age mansions that
Hmm.
used to be built, most of them are torn down,
Really?
or they've
Wow.
become museums
Oh, wow.
along Fifth Avenue. There's
Yeah.
one near my home it's this stunning white marble building that was built by a cotton merchant in the late
Hmm.
1800s, and it's one of the few houses that stood the test of time. I walked through before they did probably a $15 million renovation.
Oh, wow.
The real estate here is extraordinary. I feel very blessed that I get to work here. It's a great
Yeah.
place.
So you help people with the emotional journey in the book. What are some of the other aspects of the book do you help people through?
Well, the way I would describe it, Chris, is that people begin this journey with a lot of misconceptions about how it works, and they want to dive right in.
Mm-hmm.
The first part, I mean, for anybody out there who's made a New Year's resolution and not kept it, real estate really is that. People start very excited. They're talking to their spouse, let's do it. They see everything on Zillow, and then they lose their motivation.
Mm.
So, I mean, from the very start, it's one of these things. You don't need a real estate agent all the time. What you actually need is a coach, a cheerleader, maybe a marriage counselor.
Maybe
There's
a
a lot of things that you need. So it's not the emotional journey it's really that whole process from start to finish. And it has this like little thin layer of transaction. But what you find is that you need to wear that transaction hat as a real estate agent about 5% of the time.
Mm.
And of course, your real estate agent needs to be really, really knowledgeable about the market that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing to start is that you get to know yourself and your own communication style. And a lot of people don't stop to think, wait a minute, the way I do the rest of my life is the way I'm going to do my search.
Mm-hmm.
And so get to know yourself. Then how do you choose a real estate agent that speaks your language?
Mm.
And not only that, but speaks the language of your spouse, because often the two of you have very different communication styles. And then I lay out in the book what I call the magnetic method, which has 4 pillars. That's really about each step of the process, making sure that you build a vision, then you really work towards aligning everyone to that vision, and then you just keep amplifying that vision. Ultimately, you're attracting the home that you want. It's a very different way of approaching this, that it starts with vision. It starts with that inspiring vision rather than how many bedrooms do you want? How many, what's your budget? All of that stuff is really like it's like the death of your search.
Oh, wow.
You need to be inspired. You need to paint that big inspiring vision and then have someone guide you through. You're the hero of your story, Chris. You're the hero. And the guides, the Obi-Wan Kenobis of your journey are your real estate agents, right?
My girlfriend keeps telling me I'm the villain. So
the Darth Vader. You may be the Darth Vader.
Explains my first 9 marriages or divorces. But no, I love that. You're the hero of your story. One of the things you talk about in the book is your buyer personality, including your pre-existing real estate baggage. This sounds like a relationship issue, going into relationships with your relationship baggage. What is that about? Tell us about what is your real estate baggage you need to clean up, and what is your buyer personality?
Well, it's easier to explain in a story. I had a couple who were looking to buy an apartment. Actually, they were looking to buy a townhouse. So you were just talking about, how people buy, full buildings in New York. And they were in their early 40s and had just gotten married, wanted to have a child. If you can imagine your early 40s, you're in a little bit of a rush to have that kid because, the clock is ticking. And they were so excited. And then we looked at 20 houses and they found something they liked. They bid on it. And then as soon as they had the accepted offer, that's when the real estate baggage, that's when that emotional baggage kicked in. He was incredibly like a negotiator. He had to just every single penny. And she was very mistrustful. So between the two of them, she thought that everybody was out to get her. She was a trust fund kid. Okay. And he was just worried about negotiating the best deal. Well, let me just cut to the chase. They ended up negotiating themselves out of a deal. The deal died, and somebody else bought it for $1 million more than they would have paid. And so what happens is it's like a rabbit, that mechanical rabbit that the greyhound chases at the track.
Yeah.
It's like when the greyhound catches the rabbit, they don't even know what to do. It's like short circuits your brain, and then all those emotions. If you have money issues, if you have trust issues, they all come out to play, Chris. Okay. Yeah. So that's the real estate baggage that you're carrying around with you. And so what I try to do is point out all the different kinds of things that can come out and try to sabotage. I call them your real estate guests. They're showing up to your house and they're really causing mayhem. And it's actually like a self-sabotage, and it happens all the time. Real estate agents are shaking their heads. Yes, it happens all the time. And so how do we go about making sure that you don't sabotage your own deals? Right?
Yeah. I've always seen that a lot in the purchasing business of just sales and working with buyers. And there's certain people that they know how to sabotage the F out of themselves, and they think they're being savvy, but it's almost like they're the people who you'll hear later got the biggest screw jobs put on them, because they have such a high bar for what they think is bullshit and lies when people are just trying to help them, that they raise their bar so high. The only people who can get over it are the real grifter, scammer, silver tongue dudes, right? I see the same thing in dating too, ironically. But we would, with our mortgage company, we would have people have bad credit. We'd offer them like really good credit, or we'd offer them a little bit higher interest rate because the credit was bad. They didn't pay their bills on time. But we'd find a lender and we're like, hey, these guys are pretty solid. They always pay their mortgage on time. Blah 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 blah. We'd sell it. You're probably familiar with how that works. And we get somebody to give them a low rate. And instead of getting just for example, from the 90s, 77%, we give them like 10 or 11. And they would be like, you're screwing me. And I know when I'm being taken. And, that sort of attitude is kind of like your guy there. And then they would, I'm leaving someplace else. Okay, well, fine. be happy. And then later they would come to you and they'd be like, yeah, I got a really good deal from somebody. And you're like, what did you get? Oh, I got 18% and I paid $20,000 in closing costs. And I'm just like, you're an idiot. You think you're really smart. And it's kind of interesting. It's always those same people. But those guys just ripped themselves off because it sounds like they got a deal for that home that was worth $1 million more.
Yeah. I mean,
And
what I was
cutting
saying,
off your nose despite your face. Sorry to interrupt you.
it's crazy. You really hit the nail on the head that some people they start with mistrust and you have to gain their trust.
Yeah.
And I really do encourage people, you have to start with trust. If you believe that people are going to show up with their best selves, you'd be amazed at how many people do. I've been selling real estate in New York for over 2 decades, and I can count on 2 fingers the amount of times I've had to pursue someone for going behind my back or doing something kind of shady, because I just start with trust. And I'm going to expect people to behave themselves.
Yeah.
And when I have clients, like you said, that are not trustful, it really it challenges you to still bring your best self, because you know that somebody's expecting you to do something. When people expect you to bring their worst, guess what happens? Just like you said, I think it really does bring out the worst in you too.
Yeah. I mean, it really does. In your book, you talk about, so do people need to sit, well, they need to buy your book and sit down and read it so they understand how to get rid of their real estate baggage. They need to see a therapist at all, or maybe you guys need to have some realtor therapist, maybe real estate.
Real estate therapy.
Yeah, you need a couch where people sit and they have to talk to you for a couple hours before you take them out to see houses.
I mean, that's for sure. I think it's when you sit down with someone, when I sit down with someone, the question that I want to ask is, what does home mean to you? And what I found is I haven't found another question that cuts through the noise more. The most jaded person, somebody who's focused only on the dollars and cents, all of a sudden it short circuits their brain. They have to go, wait a second. What is home? It's not about a great deal. It becomes about, you
got to live in it.
What does this actually mean to me?
Yeah.
And you find that you can, I really do think that good agents have to be provocative enough to cut through and get to the truth of the matter. It's often like a neck down answer than a neck up answer. I really, one of the things I recommend to people, and you can't necessarily do it just like this in every market, but I encourage people to make more offers than they think they need to make. Because the only true way to know whether you like something or not is to really put yourself to the test. And the only way to really do that is either have a thought exercise where you're like, okay, if you won this property, how are you going to feel? Or if you lost this property, how are you going to feel? That's a question that a lot of real estate agents ask. But if you make an actual offer and the seller accepts it and you feel nothing, there's your answer.
So if you're just treating it like a money deal, you're right. You're going to live in this. You're going to raise your children. Your children are going to play in it. It's going to be a home of memories where, this is going to be something the kids will remember where they're growing up and mom and dad and you have to be comfortable in your home. I mean, if you're not comfortable in your home, how are you going to walk around in your underwear all day? No, I'm just kidding. So there you go. But yeah, these are aspects to talk about. No one talks about this, at least from what I've ever seen in the real estate business. No one talks about these emotional and empirical sort of trying to find what really fits. One of the things you talk about is finding an agent who best suits your communication style. Why is that important?
We've all had that feeling when you feel like you're being sold. And part of that feeling is that the agent isn't really listening to you. They're trying to just tell you how much they know. They're trying to sell you a house. Like, let's just get you a house. But sometimes when you feel that way, it's because they're speaking in a certain style that doesn't suit you. And I go into in the book, and you can actually, you don't have to buy the book you can do some free resources from the website, but you take a little assessment, takes like 5 minutes max, and you get to know your own communication style. Are you more most people are very data driven. Like 40% of people are really focused on getting the data, making sure that they don't make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that person, it's so common, they take a longer time to buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a real estate agent and you're like, oh, it's a great house, it's a great deal, and you're not speaking with enough detail, well,
Mm-hmm.
that buyer is going to get turned off because
Yeah.
he or she needs more numbers, more data.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like a CEO type that's like, just give it to me in bullet points, to make sure I know that you know what you're talking about, and then give it to me in bullet points. And like, is it a good value? Does my spouse like it? That kind of thing. And you start giving them 2 pages of data, you're not listening to them either. So the agent that works best for you is going to give you the information and support you in a way that you feel seen and heard and understood.
Oh.
And it's the most important thing, Chris. There are agents that have been doing this for 5 minutes and
Mm-hmm.
who care and who have a team behind them that really knows things, and they're good listeners. And there are people who've been doing this for 25 years who are bad listeners, who are just, they're just get the deal done. And I think ultimately, if you slow down and become a better listener, and you really exhibit more emotional intelligence, that is how you, as a real estate agent, are going to be more successful. You're going to help people find more homes, because it actually, by slowing down, you're actually hearing what people are saying and not saying, and it accelerates your ability. It's the intuition to think of homes that, oh, I think this would work for you. I mean, can I tell a little story about this?
Please do.
I had a client who wanted to buy a condo in Columbus Circle, which is right on the southwest corner of Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, if anybody freaks out about the numbers I throw around, you can just take away a zero. But he wanted to spend like $1.5 million for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
And we went and looked around, and I believe it or not, it wasn't like the greatest budget for what he was looking for. And we saw about 5 places, and let's take a pit stop for coffee. We sat down, and it was clear he hated everything. I was like, okay, what are you actually looking for? Well, I want to be like in a place where I get a feeling of the bustle in the city, and I can go do the things I want to do. I'm like, so it's not really that you want to be in this area. And are you going to use it for investment? No. So the condo is not as important. In New York, we have this thing called co-ops that are like kind of like little country clubs in buildings. So I have an idea. I have this idea. All of a sudden, this idea came to me for this apartment that I knew about on the other side of the park that was even bigger, and it was like 40% less expensive than what he wanted to spend. And sure enough, he's like, it was perfect. It was exactly what he wanted. And I think that happened because I was willing to just listen to what he had to say. Like, tell me more. What are you about? People are so busy looking at a checklist, Chris, that they forget that there's a person in front of them.
Yeah.
That's the mistake I think a lot of agents make. And so, that's the long way around to saying that a good agent really, really, really puts the person first and is just actually listening and not just waiting to respond.
Yeah. Yeah. With what they think the person should have.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. In sales, I learned a long time ago to train people when they first call the clients or the prospects, ask them, what are you trying to accomplish? And shut the fuck up and listen. And it's so amazing because when you ask people, what are you trying to accomplish? Because we, most of our sales at the time, we had multiple companies, but our biggest one was mortgage. And, you're dealing with kind of the same thing you've talked about in real estate, where people kind of look at, well, how many bedrooms, they look at the what would you call it? They look at the structural sort of nature of it instead of the emotional structure of it. So, they're like, well, I want a 15-year mortgage and I want a good rate and how's my credit, yada. But really, asking people, what are you trying to accomplish? Oh, well, I need a mortgage because I've got to pay off $30,000 with a credit card debt, sending my kid to college. I'm trying to get my rate lowered, and so I can save more money every month. And so, and listening for those things, you understand what their motivation is. And then, you can suggest, well, oh, you're trying to pay off your mortgage quicker. Like people would be like, hey, I want a 15 years so I can pay off my mortgage quicker. And it's like, well, that's not going to work with your debt to income. Here's what you can do. You can do a 20-year mortgage, or you can do a 30-year mortgage. And if you just make an extra payment or or an extra $100 or $200 on top of that, you will turn it into I think it's a 15-year mortgage you'll turn it into, depending upon how much you put on it. But you can listen and help people, and that's really important. And so maybe, I guess, the lesson from your book is for buyers, try and find that type of agent, right?
The biggest thing I would recommend, Chris, is for people to spend just a little bit of time preparing for what this is. This is a huge, people spend, first 71% of people hire the first real estate agent they meet.
Do they really?
Something is very wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, for many, many reasons, but one of them is that fully 1 in every 6 real estate agents out there has only been in this business for less than 2 years.
Yeah.
So you're hiring the first person who may not know what they're doing. And is there any surprise that the outcome is bad? So what I suggest is take a little bit more time planning this out, who you're going to interview a couple of agents, get some recommendations, get to know your own communication style. I promise you that you're going to have a better outcome. Don't be that person who spends more time planning their weekend vacation than they do hiring the person that's going to make the most important decision, help you make the most important decision of your life. Does that make sense?
They'll spend more time trying to figure out what to watch on Netflix.
That is an even more heavy, kind of ridiculous and also appropriate thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, didn't you prepare for the house buying? I was busy watching The Bachelor and the Kardashians. So don't do that, folks. Anyway, what are we've kind of plumbed some of the advice. What do you see? Maybe give us a forecast, if you would. I don't want to put you on the spot or put you in a box about what home prices are going to do. But what do you? Let me start with this. There's a lot of people that don't think they can afford a home, and I see a lot of weird shit right now because, I mean, home prices have atrophied incredibly high, and there's less inventory than we really need. I don't know why we still have this problem after 9/11 in 2008. But well, I kind of know. But there's a lot of young people that say we can't afford homes. But when I talk to them, they're going through 2 to 3 day orders of DoorDash. And their car payments are $1,500 because they have to have the latest fucking, I don't know, Altima or something. And you're just like, that $1,500 used to be a car payment or a house payment.
Right.
And,
right.
And I mean, I've done DoorDash once during a day, and $40 to deliver a $10 Big Mac to me. I mean, stop it. So what's the reality out there you see? Do people really need to maybe focus on getting that investment property? It used to be the key to the American dream was getting a house, and then it's a appreciation.
Yeah. First, I mean, I'm not the one to scold anyone and into saying stop buying your Starbucks and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think I'll leave that to the budget experts, to the Susie Ormans of the world. Okay. But the truth is 1 in 5 people, that are in Gen Z or millennials, are saying that they feel like they'll never be able to afford a home. So my heart goes out to them. It's really heartbreaking to hear people say, to believe that they're not going to be able to do it. So first and foremost, I would say that an agent's superpower is believing that it is possible for you, right? That we're going to make it happen, certainty. And then let that person, that buyer, borrow my belief in them until they believe in it themselves. So it starts with belief. It starts with believing until you see it. Most people say seeing is believing. In the book, I say believing is seeing, that you have to manifest this. And I know it gets a little woo-woo for people. You paint a picture of what you're looking to do, and then you make that picture clearer and clearer, and you really do learn what you love. You'd be shocked. And I've talked to dozens and dozens of real estate agents who have the same story. The person's looking, about to give up. And the agent's like, please keep believing in this. It's going to happen. And then the next day or the next week, they find a home that they would love. It happened again and again. Or the buyer found some random house that it turns out to be perfect for them. Or their friend calls and says, hey, I drove by this house and it was perfect for me. So I just want to end with a story. There was an agent in Westchester, which is a bedroom community area near New York City. She was working with his executive, and they were looking for houses, and she was getting frustrated. She couldn't find a house for this guy. He was getting frustrated. He couldn't find a house. And she saw something come on the market and she kind of dismissed it because it backed up to train tracks. And she gets a call later that day from the buyer, said, I found this perfect house for me. Well, it turns out the most important piece of information that he didn't share is that his son has autism and is obsessed with trains. And so like this was the perfect house for them. And it was one of those things, like they had a good relationship, they had built trust, and it worked out. But you need to have that kind of trust and faith in relationship so that it eventually happens. And I think that that's really important to people to know. Like, you think it can happen. What's the saying that Henry Ford, like, whether you can or you can't, whatever you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. So I think it's important for people to really think about the mindset that they come in. Yes, rates are high. Yes, inventory is low. I think ultimately there are opportunities in every market. You've got to surround yourself with a team that is solution oriented, not problem oriented. I think it works out just fine. Chris, I can't hear you.
There we go. What do you think about the future of the market? Is homes going to keep appreciating? Is there a drop in home prices that are going to happen? What do you see the future as?
Every market's a little bit different. There's a lot of volatility out there, that is for sure. But there's some magic number out there, Chris, where if the mortgage rates hit just a little bit lower than they are, I think that sort of stimulates the market enough and will start to bring markets around the country back to a level of health where sellers feel they can move and find something that's appropriate for them, that rates are low enough they can trade into something smaller. And I think ultimately, you see a lot of investor class, the sort of corporate investors, maybe not as active as they were on single family homes. So my hope is that there's a little bit more inventory, that rates come down a little bit and it just becomes a little healthier and like more active. So I'm optimistic that we end up with a better functioning market across the country in every different market.
Yeah, I think the Fed's going to have to definitely lower rates because we're seeing incredible inflation, and that helps home sales and stuff. There's kind of this stuckness that's going on right now in the market where people are stuck. They don't want to sell because they've got incredible rates from a few years ago, I think.
Yep.
They've got incredible appreciation, but they don't. If they move, my mom has this problem. If she moves, she's going to end up paying more for a house than she paid 20 or 30 years ago. She has incredible equity in her house now, but if she moves, she actually kind of screws herself with the new home prices that are out there and affordability. And so even though she has a lot of equity, there's not enough to make that jump. And a lot of people like that. I was reading, I can't remember I don't know if it was Economist or The Atlantic or something, but there's a lot of people stuck right now. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of an interesting thing where there's not a lot of trade going on.
Well, I think that, again, the job of a real estate agent is to get you off the couch, like to inspire you to take some action.
Yeah.
There's this whole idea that, real estate websites have become like the new porn. There was a Saturday Night Live skit about it.
Was there really?
Yeah. People it's like they call it Zillow. They also call it Zillow therapy, where they just go on and look at real estate and they sort of, dream. But I think that, you have to get out, see some property, get inspired. And for all you know, you may find a house that's the right price and you may be able to find a rate that's the right rate. I just think action is is kind of the antidote to all this paralysis. And I know it sounds obvious, but it's like, take little steps, surround yourself with people who really believe in you. And maybe there's that friend out there that kind of secretly, doesn't really want you to succeed. Doesn't want you to do, maybe you just got a bonus and that person's like, oh, this person got a bonus. My friend got a bonus. You really have to surround yourself with people, in your life who the people are that support you and who the people aren't. And I think we make the mistake of surrounding ourselves with people who aren't going to help us on this very stressful journey. This is one of the most stressful things that people put themselves through. And since 65% of Americans do it, many people have already been through this journey. And those are the people that can support you and say, okay, I understand it's stressful. I remember that. I sort of vaguely remember it, but you got to surround yourself with people who really care about you, that are going to cheerlead you. And one of those people is also your real estate agent.
I surround myself with people who hate me, and that kind of drives me. Knowing my enemies are out to get me keeps me moving.
Yeah.
There's that one with the knife that I'm always trying to outrun in my dreams, nightmares.
Love it.
So that are my first 9 marriages. Anyway, so there you go. I think it's I think you have some great points, and I'm glad you're giving people this depth to the book, because you can't win the game as you've been saying unless you're playing on the field. So if you're just sitting on the sidelines, it's hard to win. And when deals come up, you got to be able to hit them and grab them, right? It's probably still a tight market that way.
Yeah, you have to be opportunistic. And the only way, I can't tell you this is a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can till I'm blue in the face, but you're not going to believe me unless you've done enough of the work yourself to be educated, to feel confident. So, I mean, all the work is so that you're ready when that right thing comes along, when that thing gets attracted to you, you're ready. Your vision is clear. You're aligned with your partner. You're activated and ready to go. And then you attract that property, and boom, it happens.
There you go. You attract the property.
That's what the magnetic method's about, Chris.
It's kind of how it's, and that's a portion of, I believe that's the title of your company or a website.
Yes,
or
Magnetic.
Tell us about that a little bit. Let's get a plug in for that.
Yeah. So I wrote the book while I was considering launching my firm. I have a boutique company that I launched about a year ago. And as I thought of the magnetic method, which is really the sort of counterintuitive way that I help people, and I've helped people buy a lot of property, that method that I talk about in the book informed how I wanted to call, my company Magnetic. And it's really about attracting what matters most to you. And so we go through these 4 steps of the magnetic method, and it's worked out great. I feel really honored to get to help some really special people in New York City. And really, I wrote this book so I could help people across the country. But if people want to learn more about New York City real estate, they can certainly go to magneticre.com, learn about what's on offer in the New York City real estate market. But I really did write this book because I wanted to make an impact and change the conversation around the country about what's possible when you find a home that you love, and how to make it possible. Right.
There you go. I love it. I was a real estate agent for 6 years, and you're right. A lot of people don't talk about this stuff. It's all about the semantics of how many bedrooms and bath you want, and what type of kitchen, what do you want in it, and how many car garage,
Right.
And there's no emotional. I mean, it's like there's no feeling to that aspect of it, and talking to people about what they want to emotionally do and helping them be more prepared with your book, I think is really important, because, you only have so much time as a real estate agent to really train or work with people. You can't sit down and read them your book, maybe page by page. But I think it's indispensable what you've done. Is the book good for maybe other real estate agents out there in the market?
Yeah. So when I wrote the book, it really was geared. I actually wrote it with my brother in mind. I have a brother who's 36, 35, and he hadn't bought a house yet. And I was like, what is my brother? What would I tell my brother? How would I distill everything that I wanted to do to tell him how to buy a home? How to surround himself with the right people so he can, really, and what are the roadblocks so he's really ready for when that opportunity comes by. And then I realized over time, wait a minute, I've laid out how to get into the minds of home buyers. What do they really go through? And so I realized this is really a book that agents want their clients to buy and read. And it's a book that buyers want their agents to read. If agents really are able to up their emotional intelligence, everybody wins.
Yeah.
So I've gotten great feedback from real estate agents across the country. I've started to do some speaking, real estate companies about what's possible when you really put the client first. And I start to sound like Jerry Maguire, fewer clients, less money, that kind of thing, But the truth is, like, I actually think that it's the opposite. It's like you just work on your clients, you listen to them, and then you actually do better. That's how I found it. It's when you really focus on creating this like incredible level of customer service, your business explodes.
There
And
you go.
wonderful, because you're good, and then you're helping other people, and like better that you help them than some agent who doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and then they're happy. They'll give you referrals. They'll come back to you in the future. I mean, happy customers are everything when it comes down to it. So give us your final pitch out on people to order up the book and what .coms to look at to get to know you better.
Sure. If people want to get all the free resources from the book, there's a bunch that they can find at pursueyourhome.com. And they go there, and there's a button that says free resources. They can check that out. If they like what they can sign up so that they can get all the nitty gritty information from me. And if they want to buy the book, there's a link there so they can, wherever they want to buy books, but there's links right there on the website where they can purchase it. And they can be in touch with me. We can start talking about, maybe helping them find a great agent in their market, those kinds of things as well.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, Scott, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be here, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thanks, Monas, for tuning in. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold out October 14th, 2025. It's called The Pursuit of Home, a real estate guide to achieving the American dream by Scott Harris. Thanks, Monas, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss, one on the TikTokity, all those crazy places in it. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.